All right, guys, the world's top science society's convention now going woke. On its opening night, traditional Native Americans performed a hoop dancing routine. But what does that have to do with science, critics are asking? The convention also gave attendees the option to display pronouns on their name tags. And it featured several woke workshops. Some of these sessions include this. Listen to these titles. Nurturing diversity in science is resistance. Investigating the role of race in clinical decision-making. Who gets to belong? Disability, power, and participation in higher education. Colonial legacies, climate crises, and the erosion of mobility choice. The society's CEO even took a jab at the Trump administration. Here's what he had to say about Secretary RFK Jr. Watch.
You know, a year ago, I stood up here and I said that RFK Jr. was the wrong person for the job at HHS. I still feel that way.
One attendee wasn't too happy with all of this, telling Fox News Digital this year felt like a funeral with nothing but griping and moaning. Their constant pleas to keep politics out of science are completely undercut by their perpetual whining and endorsing utter craziness. They're happy for science to be political as long as it's leftist. And the convention responded with this, quote, a broad spectrum of the scientific enterprise attends the meeting. The topics covered were wide-ranging across scientific disciplines and are proposed by scientists. AAAS respects their First Amendment right to free speech, which has nothing to do with this, Kellyanne. I'm like, what? I can't even. Yeah, I know.
This is incredible. Thank you for laying out all of the names of the workshops. Look, we want science to come up with big breakthroughs, to cure diseases, to innovate, to research. And for, for a discipline and a convention that's supposed to be about innovation and progress, I feel like I was watching something from 5 years ago. And President Trump won in large part on fairness, on getting rid of wokeness, on replacing that with fairness. You've got a lot of companies running to get rid of DEI programs and hiring. You've got the universities coming to heel. And yet the place where it really should have no status at all in science seems to be the place where it literally reigns. Look, I understand everybody's got to get their anti-Trump, anti-RFK Jr. stuff in. Who cares? But I'm very concerned that this is true political science at a time when I do feel like we're falling behind certain things. Instead of pouting and shouting and rehashing things from 5 or 6 years ago, how about telling us something exciting and new about science?
Totally. My degree in political science looked a lot different than that back then. So, Kaylee, all right, so we're all attorneys. I'm noticing, by the way, that a lot of my continuing legal education courses have titles really similar to that.
Yes.
And I appreciate your point that it feels so stale and also wrong. I want the titles there to be like genetic la in whatever. It should have nothing to do with the headlines I'm subjected to on the Washington Post, but here it's completely infiltrated. How is that supposed to reassure us that our biology and science is in good hands?
Yeah, if this is mainstream science, that's highly concerning. Just pull up the image we had on our screen, which was these identifiers you had at check-in, which was XI, I guess that's she, XER, I guess that's sure. I mean, I've never heard of these things, but apparently this is science. They also had a 10-minute hoop dance routine from traditional Native Americans. Good for them. I guess that was the entertainment. But here's what bothers me. One of the attendees said, we're not going back. It's not possible. Too much damage has been done. Generations of scientists have scars. And I thought to myself, the scars are self-inflicted because you've all ignored the science. I'm sure many attendees at this conference were vocal about kids going back to school during COVID. No, I'm sure they were not, but that's what the science said. How many of them have been vocal on identity issues like trans issues and biological reality? I doubt very many of them have, and look at them dance up there. And how many of them have been vocal when you look at it, they opted to allow a Beijing-based Chinese Academy of Sciences at this event? What happened to the Wuhan lab theory, which, by the way, when Donald Trump posited that, there were fact checks. Anthony Fauci came out against it. And as it turns out, Washington Post, how the Wuhan lab leak theory suddenly became credible. OK, you welcome the China Academy to your science conference. This isn't science. This is propaganda.
And Native American hoop dancing is very sacred and special. So for me, I see that, too, as, frankly, a cheap use of that to further a sort of woke position. And I wonder who's paying for this. Like, you know, when we pay for the cost of drugs and prescriptions, does that somehow go to this? What of my dollars paid for this crap?
I think It's a good question about the overall sort of miss that this does. It just misses the point. You're supposed to, in a room like that, be able to ask questions. I mean, it's a testing theory. That's what science is. And everybody brings what they have to bear, and then you kind of test each other's theories and what some of the dynamics of laboratory proof have shown. And it's an opportunity to do all of that. The hoop dance can be very beautiful. It's about unity. I expect that room to be about something else. I want that room to be almost contentious. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want people to say, no, that's not it. It's this, it's that. This is what I can prove. This is my theory, and let's jump in. You know, but that's not what's happening there. And by the way, this is where the Democrats miss politically, over and over. You mentioned TDS, not by name, but Trump derangement syndrome. They're so focused on showing what is negative and going against something that they can't tell you one word about how they would replace it, how they would make it better, how they would be different in a positive way. So I don't think it's helpful to point out how you're different than President Trump. He's in office right now, and get a load of that economy cooking up jobs last week. Get a load of some of the stuff that's going on. No one asked for perfection except for the left. Everybody else would just like something we haven't seen. That's production. We didn't have that in the last 4 years under Biden.
Jeremy, how do you see this?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think of it as a dad, and I hate to admit this, but a lot of the recommendations and the research that they do, it does factor into our day-to-day lives. I mean, when I'm looking at which prescription to give my kids, which over-the-counter medicines, and I get which dosage, my wife and I will often look on ChatGPT trying to see what the science say about this, what do they say about this? Is this too much for a kid of this size? And the idea that I'm supposed to trust them with important things like my kids' health care, but then also these are the same people who are going by they, them, and now she, sure, with the X now. I mean, I think the Chinese leader wants his name back, by the way. I mean, it really is embarrassing. I mean, so these people can't even tell me what a man is and what a woman is, but in our day-to-day life, we have to trust that, that they're giving us factual information in regards to health care and science and everything else. That is what's most disturbing to me, is that we have a major trust problem, and it's only getting worse.
Well said. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.